Hello and welcome to Rooted in the Caribbean, our Women in Leadership series. Today, my guest is Christiane Alexander. Christiana is a dear friend, and I'm really excited to delve into her career to date. She is definitely a trailblazer who has had the opportunity of doing a lot of her studies and research in the Caribbean, and I just wanted to share how her roots are linked to the Caribbean. Welcome. Hello and welcome to Rooted in the Caribbean, our Woman in Leadership series. And today my guest is Christiane Alexander. Christiane is a really dear friend, and I'm really excited for her to start sharing with us what her career journey has been as a woman in leadership. Welcome, Christiane.
Thank you very much, Domini. Very excited to see you and to be in this.
You. Christiana, so my first question to all my guests, tell me about your roots and your connection to the Caribbean.
My connection to the Caribbean, yes, that started, I think, in 1991.
Okay.
I was doing reading biology in Düsseldorf in Germany. So I am German. And they offered a field trip to the Caribbean to study tropical plants and animals. And
Right.
we had to do a field trip as a biologist. So I found that was the most attractive one. And I picked
Right.
that one. So we all had to go through a seminar, provide certain research topics. I was talking about mangroves and how they could be salt tolerant. I can even remember that because it was so fascinating.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I was very interested when we then had the trip to the Caribbean when we were
Yeah.
doing this visitation to the swamps where the mangroves actually grow and you have the
Yeah.
ibis and all these lovely things. So this was my first connection to the Caribbean. Spending this 3 weeks in Trinidad and also in Tobago. We always had
Right.
one day where we traveled around and were looking at important things and visiting attractions like Asphalt Lake and see such things.
Yeah.
And then we had guides with us who were showing us about the plants, animals, and stuff. Asa Wright Nature Center, these kind of things. And
Wow, and you remember the names. I'm
yeah,
impressed.
because later on, I took my children there. It was,
Right.
I've been there again and again because this is Trinidad to me. All the nature, all the flora and the fauna and
Florida.
all the beauty, everything that we do not have here, but which is tropical, and these plants and these
Yeah.
blossoms and these trees and this the how you say the fragrance and it's
Yes.
Yeah. And last year, when we went to the Caribbean again, we went to Tobago first. And I went to the same beach that we used to go to snorkel and look at the fish and
Ah.
everything. And it was I'm not revealing where it is because it is my secret.
Yeah. That's your secret place. Wow. So you have a
Yes.
secret place in Tobago.
Yes, and I was so
Wow.
happy because when I showed my daughter, we were it was still in the same condition, and I was so worried that it was all broken because they had built more hotels around this area.
Yeah.
But it was still the same. It was still very
Wow.
populated with animals and fish and I think we saw squints or what they are called.
Squid.
Yeah.
Oh, like jellyfish.
Yes, but it was a whole family, and they were looking at us,
Oh.
and we were looking at them. It was incredible. It was like six of them watching us.
Wow.
It was amazing. So
They knew that you came in peace.
sorry.
They knew that you came in peace because they
Yeah,
didn't.
it seems so.
Oh.
I have to actually finish this story. So I went to Trinidad to the university, and we
Yes.
were staying at Tea Hall. And
Trinity Hall.
Trinity Hall on University campus, and that's where I met my later husband. And they were talking to our boys in our group, and they were arranging for a soccer game, and that's how we somehow got in contact. And that is, later, two years later, we got married.
So your connection to the Caribbean became a permanent connection.
Exactly. He always used to say she was actually more interested in social studies. Not so much in the plant, but I do.
Than biology. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So your girls, part of their roots are in the Caribbean.
Yes.
So it's amazing that you even to this day still continue to take them there, because I know that Shanice and Chantel are now grown.
Yeah.
So that's amazing that they still have that love and connection to the
Yes.
Caribbean.
I believe it's absolutely important, because I think this has to do with understanding who they are. What is their identity? They are half German and they are half Trinidadian. But where better can they learn what it means to be Trinidadian when not going there and actually experiencing all the family, all the aunties and nephews and cousins and going down to Port of Spain. Family lives in Arima, but also seeing the way how I perceive Trinidad, and with all the nature
when you went
and all this beauty there. We started to. Oh, and then you must also look. I don't have the hair the way how you have your hair. I don't know how to do the hairdo and all these things. That's super important for girls.
to understand that.
And then they got into this environment in the family, and it was just natural that they were doing their hair and they could do this beauty hairstyles and all that. So they loved it. They just loved it, and they felt home. They reached home over there, and they could bring it over here. And so finally they had both sides of their personalities, of what
who they
were.
are. Who they are.
And who they are.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you took a chance, because that's what it was, on coming to the Caribbean to do your research. Who knew what God had in store? But how do you think that experience in the Caribbean has influenced how you show up in the workplace? I'd love for you just to talk about what you do now. There aren't many women like you doing what you do. So has there been anything about that experience in the Caribbean that has influenced how you show up in that space?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with shaping and forming also me and my personality, and also who I am. When I always like traveling, I always like to see the world. But when I reached to the Caribbean, I felt, okay, I've reached. This to me is the most beautiful place on earth. So I don't need to search any further. Here is, I think, the most beautiful place is. So this hunger for traveling and searching and what is here and what is there was kind of quenched. This was stilled.
Gotcha.
This was done, and I think I took a lot also through Nolly, of course, through the way how he is, how easy he is, talking to people, sharing things, being funny. This is not very much a German thing. So this is something where even where I drew a lot from, to share about myself, and also in the relationships that I have with clients, when I meet clients, to be relaxed, and share, and always, take, be aware of the atmosphere, be aware of the people that I speak to. I,
Yeah.
you know, and I think this small talk thing. So many people that are doing the job that I do are afraid of approaching people for the very first time. They
Yeah.
don't know what to say. They don't know how to approach them. They don't know what to speak about. And this small talk thing, this is just so natural for you people in Trinidad that, and it is not natural at all. And I'm in
In
Germany.
German culture. Yeah.
No, and you have other countries in Europe as well where this is where people are a bit stiff,
Not the
and
norm.
people are not so used to doing this. And I think this is what is helping me a lot with my kind of work. I'm not in research, in pure research, academic research anymore. I'm working for companies that run clinical trials. So we are testing drugs
Right.
for companies. And since cell and gene therapy has become a very, very important, it's a lot of biotech companies that I talk to.
Mhm.
So I look for biotech companies who have interesting candidates that they want to study further to bring to market, and they have to go
Yeah.
through clinical trials for this. And this is involving a lot approaching people, building relationships with these people, um, um, winning their trust,
Yeah.
so that they open up and tell me what are their needs, what how much funding do they have, how much money can they actually spend, and how can we
Yeah.
find out how they can wisely spend their money to reach the next steps. And that is what I'm doing now. I'm actually in
Right.
sales. I'm in
Yeah.
sales now, but my scientific understanding helps me a lot to quickly judge on a company. What are they doing? Which stage are they at? What would be the next thing that they need? And do I have something in our company that could match
That could help.
them and could
Mm.
help? And if it's not the case, that's fine. Then we just don't
Yeah.
have a match. Maybe in 2 years, or maybe they have
Yeah.
other partners. But okay, that's fine. I just look for how can I support these people, because
Yeah.
I want them to be successful, and I want them to bring their drugs and treatments to the patients. And it is just amazing what you can see in this space. So that's great.
I've never thought about the benefit of liming, because what you just
Ah,
described in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of that ability to navigate a space in a way that is almost, well, it's relaxed and it's natural, but that's what we do as,
yeah.
when we lime. So it's wow. I'd never seen it from that side at all.
Yeah, and you know what? I even used that one time when I was applying for a job, and they asked
Yeah.
me to make a little presentation about myself. And I said, I'm a hybrid. I have the German side, which is my analytical, scientific thinking thing,
Yes.
this education that I was allowed to have here. But the other side that is super important in this kind of job is this personal side, where you, what I just described, where you
Personal.
approach people
Yeah.
and you're not afraid to approach people, because it's people. Hey, there's always some grounds you will find where you can connect somehow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But if I take you back to your research days,
Yes.
as a woman,
Mm.
you were probably an anomaly in terms of the progress you made as a scientist. What was your what's been your journey?
Um, I did biology in Düsseldorf, and then the Human Genome Project was in everybody's, or at least in the scientific mouth.
Yes.
It was the big project, which was very unique. That people from all around the world tried to put money together and raise funds to discover the sequence of the human genome. And this was
Mhm.
not one company who was doing it, or one university, or one scientist who was doing it, but it was
It
so
was a
huge.
collaboration.
We had to collaborate. And that's what I thought for my PhD. Wow, this is going to be history. I got to be in this. And
Right.
and there was a job offering where somebody was studying diseases which are caused by a mutation in one gene. You can see that from the inheritance in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one of these projects. And so I did my PhD on mapping out the region, the genomic region where the gene had to be in there. We knew that it had to be on chromosome number 3, and it had to be somewhere there in this area. And then I was able to minimize this region and exclude parts. And then it became possible, because it was small enough, to sequence it. And then I got the opportunity to go to Tübingen. And also, what was very important, my supervisor at that time, he got a grant to go to Bethesda in the US and study Parkinson's disease. He was focusing on Parkinson's, and he said, "Look, Christiane, I got this grant. I'm going to go there. Your project, which was an eye disease, is not really in my focus, so I can give it to you, and I wish you good luck." And this was amazing for me because I had my own, I owned this project now, so I was allowed to write my own grants and get money for it and follow this research. So I went to Tübingen, where I had made some connections to them because I knew they had a lot of money. They were interested very much in the sequencing and stuff. So they had a lot of sequencing machines, and they got interested, and they said, "Okay, come here." And then I worked out the sequence, and then I made some other connection with the clinician in London who was looking at it from the clinical side. She had patients. I had some patients from different universities and eye doctors in Germany, but she also had collected patients in London. And then I took all my sequencing information, burned on CDs at that time, and flew over to London. And then we studied the sequence to identify what are gene sequences, what could be potentially the gene, and from all of these letters.
Sure.
And then we found the first candidates with predictions and database analysis and all that, in silico analysis. And then we said, okay, we're gonna check for mutations now in these patients, and that then the mutations just they just dropped. We saw them in the patients, so we knew this was the gene, although we did not yet know what the function was. This was something that I was then studying afterwards. When I went back to Germany, I got a position in Berlin at Max Delbrück Center for Molecular Medicine, in connection with a junior professorship at the university, in Humboldt University. So I had to give lectures, and I had to do my research and lead my own research group in the Max Center. Yes, and this was also a very international group. We had a PhD program. I had a PhD from Poland, from Serbia, from India, and an Italian. This was my group.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we were then looking at what we made animal models. We made a knockout mouse, and then we made transgenic flies, looked at the different mutations. So these animal models, each animal model has different advantages. For example, the fly, you can just express the mutation only in the eye, for example. That is genetically possible. And then you can say, and now I want to see what does it to the legs, or what does it to the wings. So this is genetically possible. That's very interesting. But then, of course, the mouse is more closer to the humans, and you want to understand what is actually going on. We have the sequence, but we don't understand what this molecule is doing and why is it causing the disease when it is mutated.
In humans,
Yes, exactly. And that's why you usually need an animal model. You can study all that in the animal. And when you get hints, you can then think into the direction of what could be a therapy, what could be maybe a useful drug here. But at that, I didn't get that far. I got to the animal models, but then our marriage was breaking up. I had the 2 small children, and I had to see, look, I need a job. I need a job where I don't have to work 24/7,
Yeah.
fighting against all the scientists in the world to be the first to publish my data. And also, I realized, well, even as a professor, you don't earn that much money as I thought in the beginning. So I was
Yeah.
ready to leave the academics and hop over into industry. And that is when I joined a small research organization in Berlin, which was doing these clinical studies. That was my
Got
start,
you.
my step into industry there. And I wanted to do something where I can use my scientific knowledge. So I worked but still work in the industry.
Yeah.
And yeah, I never regretted this step. And what I still do is I go to my old institute and part of the mentoring program there. So I get a mentee and
Yeah.
help these people in their career path. So if they realize I don't want to be an academic, I want to maybe step out of academia and join industry.
Mm.
People usually don't know what do these job descriptions
What do they
mean.
want to do?
What
Yeah.
kind of jobs does industry have? And a lot of academic people think it is a failure to step out of academia because I'm not the
Mm.
big professor and I'm not whatever. But to tell them, no, please don't give up. Please, you have studied um, up until your
And you
PhD
can
or
apply the
further. You have
knowledge.
so incredible knowledge that our industry
Mm.
needs in biotech. Once you are in this circus of biotech and pharmaceutical industry, you will always find a job. You will always
Mm.
find a job. You just need to make that step and to encourage them to do this and to also see the advantage of being there. It's yeah, that's what I'm trying to talk to these people and explain to them. This is not the dark side. The funny thing is, I thought I don't hear properly. We were in this mentoring session, and there were people who were saying the industry is the dark side. Hello,
Wow.
why are you saying this? I mean, you are. We have all these academics which have been funded through our educational system,
Yeah.
incredible knowledge, yeah, knowledgeable people. Let them support our industry. This is important.
It's just another side of the coin.
Yeah, yeah. And here is okay, it's a different kind of work. People think, oh, it's not creative. I can only be creative in academia. No, this is not true. It is a different kind of creativity. You have
Mm.
you have the steps that you need to do. You need to identify drugs. You need to prove that they are safe. You need to also prove that they are efficacious. And then you have to prove are they are they competitive enough to be better than what is on the market.
Mm.
But still you need to be very creative in this. And I realize there is people their place is in academia. They really want to do
Yes.
free research and just understand how things work. And then there is people who like to focus on a project and say and like to test this. Can this
Mm.
compound survive all the requirements to become a successful drug? And they can easily fit into this system. And
And I guess if I think about what we experienced during the pandemic,
yeah,
if I think back, I mean when I moved back to the UK at the start of the pandemic, it was to work for the National Health Service, so the NHS.
yes,
And and I know just how nervous people were about the speed at which the vaccinations and what were coming out. But based on what you're describing, if there wasn't that crossover between what's studied in academia and the research and the actual creation of the drugs, if there wasn't that crossover, we wouldn't be where we are today in 2025.
that's true. Although I have to say, the situation about the vaccine development for the anti-COVID stuff, this was a very unique situation. This was really very unique, and companies took steps that you normally would not take.
Right.
They took super risky steps. They normally, when you develop a drug, you really take step by step because it costs so
The
much.
research.
So you first check, is it safe? You then check, is it efficacious? And then you develop the manufacturing as well. And here the big challenge was, if we get something that actually works, we need to be able to supply the whole world. So we need to establish the manufacturing process already, although we don't know whether our vaccine is actually working. And this is what a
Right.
company would normally not do. They would first want to see the proof that it does work, and then they would slowly build up the manufacturing. But in this case, people took all the risks and just said, if it does work, we need to supply the world. And that is why,
Yeah.
yeah. But you also know that I think some of the products were not that good and there were side effects.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think they kept, from what I've seen, they have kept within the requirements that the drug development law sets.
Yes.
But I think there were other things with reimbursement in case you have side effects. That
Side effects.
these contracts, there's actually a law when you the manufacturer is in charge, and when people are harmed by whatever drug gets to the market, the sponsor, the manufacturer, the owner of the
Is liable.
liable. And I think there's where something was not done.
The risks. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. While you were doing research, though, were there many women in that field?
Good question. Oh my God. When I was at this research institute, we had big initiatives to mentor women, women's support programs and everything, because I think the rate of professors in Europe was 4% of female professors.
Wow.
Terrible. It was terrible. You did not get through. It was all very much connections and support and these kind of things in order to get through. And they had to develop programs where women needed to be supported and all this. There was a lot of women who were studying biology, who were doing PhDs, but to actually, climb the ladder, that was still
Almost impossible.
not equal situation. No, not at all. And one problem was also children becoming leaders, and then and also I don't know if this is a German specific thing, but in Germany it is, when you are employed with a university, you can only have contracts up until 6 years, and then you need to be a professor. If you are not reaching there, you need to go somewhere else. And then you need to go in the industry. Well, okay, then you just go in the industry if the industry has enough job places. But I remember when I was ready, we didn't have the biotech. We only had pharmaceutical industry. So we had the Bayer, the Novartis, the Roche, the Merck's, the very big ones. But they did not really employ much people, because the big new inventions came out of biotech and not from pharmaceutical industry. So the same people who were in this pharmaceutical industry stayed there for 30 years, and they didn't need to employ any new people. But biotech now is very broad, and that was creating a lot of jobs, and that saved time. Yeah.
And probably many women as well, because you talked about the fact that you were looking for an opportunity that gave you that flexibility.
Yeah.
And what sort of programs are in place now for women in your field, in your current field? No, are there more opportunities for women?
Well, actually, the CRO business, so running clinical trials, is very much a female-dominated business.
Okay.
Only what you often find is at sea level are the men. and below that is the women. And well, we don't like that. I always like companies which have females. I'm now in a company where the CEO is
Leaders.
female.
Oh, right. That's
Yes,
awesome.
yeah. I think
Wow.
it's good to have a mix.
Yeah.
In the sales, we still have a lot of men. So in Europe, I'm in a team with, I think it's 5 men and 2 women.
Okay.
Um,
It's getting better.
yeah,
It's getting better.
yeah.
What are the things, what advice would you give young women looking to get either into academia or
Mhm.
into biotech sales?
I think most important is networking, trying to, what we do via LinkedIn.
Mm,
Really, approach people, or when you've met them personally in a conference, connect with them.
yeah.
A lot of people from this mentoring program that I'm in, they are linking up with me, and then although they may not be my mentee, they may still send
Hmm.
me a question, and they say, "Can you give me advice
Sure.
on this or that one?" And then we set up a call. We have a quick interaction, and they can get some encouragement, and or they have me give a speech give a talk on the CRO business. And
Yeah.
I've had people. One woman approached me one time and said, "I heard you talk about it, and it was so encouraging for me. And now I am working for a CRO."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my mentees, I place them when they come to me. I always get the ones that want to go out into biotech or go into industry. So I have some working in several, or helped them or encouraged them to join different CROs or biotechs. And
Gotcha.
it is usually then like, when you look, you are Portuguese. I had one guy who was Portuguese, and I said, I know several Portuguese people in these biotech companies working in Sweden, and I think, usually this cultural match works very well,
Mm,
and I just introduced them, and then things just develop. So it is really the networking and the reaching out
yeah.
to people. This helps to find a position where people look at you, where people become aware of you, where people are seeing you, and then you can find jobs there. So
Yeah.
the networking is the most important.
Important.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And looking back on your career,
Mm-hmm.
what are what would you say was the defining moment in your career as a woman?
Define.
Or one of?
I remember early on when I was doing my diploma thesis, people were always meeting in the tea room and this oozing out their frustration of all what didn't work, and I just couldn't take this. I
Yeah.
couldn't take this negativity, and
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be in this. And I stayed in the lab and did my stuff. I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear positive stories. And I remember there was a time when I also thought, I'm not good enough. And
Right.
and I've seen that many people reach to this stage where they at some moment suddenly think they are not good enough. I'm not going to make it. Yes, I'm not a genius. I'm maybe not as good as some other people are, but this doesn't mean that I can find my spot in this industry. And
Yeah.
where my combination what of skills makes sense. Like
Yeah.
the super intelligent people may not be good in networking, or may not
Mm,
be good in certain things. And to me, it was more to have different skills, not just one skill that you're
yeah.
super analytical in this one thing. Okay, then you go and stay in academia and do that. Then that this is for you. But if you have other things, then you can find it's so versatile.
Your niche.
You will find your niche. You will find your space. And here really look at what what do you think, or what do other people tell you is special about you, or what is it that you also like to do the most, where you personally take the most from?
Yeah, how do you capitalize on your strengths is
Yes.
what,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 That's really good advice
Mm.
because like you said, there are so many times. I mean, I don't think it's just a women feel this way, but they often we question our our purpose or what we're bringing to the table. Um, and I've had other guests who've talked about this feeling of wanting to be perfect before we kind of put ourselves out there. But you're right, if we were to focus on our strengths and what are the things that others have shared about us that are impactful and powerful, how do you turn that into something that you can grow and develop
Mhm.
and yeah, just make into something great.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
really
because I think people, either you are sometimes told things, what is expected, and then you think, I need to fulfill this. For example, when I did this diploma thesis, my supervisor tells me, look, this and this is what I would like you to do. So you start doing that, and you are trying to work with the guidance that you are given, but this
mm,
may not lead to the solution of the problem. And then
yeah,
to be courageous enough to try and find your own way. I remember I had to do something, and then I found out this protein that I was supposed to isolate. I started reading about it, and I found out that it is going by a day and night rhythm. And
mm,
because this was related to the light harvesting system. And it made very much sense. And then I found out the most protein is actually present just before daylight starts. And this was the
right,
spot when I have to isolate it, because then the plant has the most of it. And this was giving me so much um, satisfaction that I thought,
yeah,
wow, this is what I want to feel again. And
mm,
it was based on, I was trying to find my own way here. And
yeah,
and this was, follow this, whatever this is. Follow your
mm,
intuition, follow what you think it is, and then um, see if that could be the solution. And
yeah.
that's what satisfied me the most, actually.
The most,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Thank you, Christiana.
Yeah.
So, my last question. Now that your girls are older,
Yeah.
and would do you see yourself going back into academia?
No.
You found your passion.
Yes, I would. I mean, now it is not so much finding out new things. Now it is also the money that I can earn. I never thought I
Hmm.
could earn so much money.
Yeah,
So industry pays you much more than in academia, and if you can develop a good reputation, if you watch your career, if you take good steps, and again use your network to advise you on what is a good company, what could be a good next step for you.
yeah,
Now it is very easy for me to find a job. People, I just wait on headhunters what they offer me. They see my CV, they see my development. I have so much knowledge in different spaces that um, I can always find a job. That is not the problem at all. The problem is more, would I like to work with this company? I choose now. It's not they choose. I choose where I
right.
want to be.
Wow.
And this is really nice, because you can really do what you like. And yeah, the money now plays a role for me. As a scientist, you don't earn much money. I was working for very little money, and I always thought
Mm,
and trusted that one day when I am a professor, I will earn a lot of money. But these people under big pressure, I like that I can combine the science with my curiosity for people. So I can bring
me
those two
too.
together. And that's
Yeah.
great for me.
Yeah, and that's awesome because as we said earlier, finding that space where you actually feel like you're fulfilling your purpose in life
Yeah.
is so important. So, thank you, Christiana. Thank you for taking time to just share. Um, and I really think that there are so many nuggets in what you shared about the value of finding what you are truly gifted at doing. So,
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure.